Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I'm really excited to get to know you a little bit better, to get to know Jude a little bit better, who is so
There
cutely looking at. Oh, hi, Jude. Oh,
he
my
is.
goodness. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, and just to hear what this process has been like for you and where you're at and where you hope to go. So thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I was very excited when you reached out, so thank you.
Yes, Bunny reached out. Bunny used her little paws
Yes,
to
yes,
type,
Bunny did
"Dear
reach out.
Michelle, please talk to me." Yeah. So, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear from you how you and Jude met and what the sort of origin story for this whole journey was.
Yeah, it starts with my dog before him. So, Bella, she was a beagle, and she passed away, and I was grieving, and my mom was like, I think you need another animal. You need to maybe get a puppy, take care, something to take care of, that needs a lot of attention. And I said, maybe you're right. And so I decided to name him Jude for the song Hey Jude, which is take a sad song and make it better, which he did. And so yeah, that's how we met. I adopted him from a rescue in Ohio. I'm originally from Ohio, so it gave me a reason to go home and see family and um, brought him back to LA. Um, and let's see, our button journey also started before he was born. So with Bella was 13 in 2020 during COVID. And so we were, sequestering at home, isolating, and I started seeing button videos on my feed, and I was just enthralled. I thought it was the coolest thing. But Bella was 13, and she was an extremely intelligent dog, but I sort of thought to myself, like, I don't know if I should do this at her age. She's like, this might just be one more thing to annoy her at this point. Like she would be good at it, but what if like she's just like, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. And so I kind of put it off, and I was watching videos I kept like following more and more accounts. You were one of them. I remember like I think at the time they went by Misa Mila, but now it's like Mila Talking Dog. Um Flambeau, like some of the early, yeah, I and they all had big buttons too. You had big buttons to begin with too, and I was also like, oh, my apartment's so small, I don't have room for the big buttons, but kept watching, and 2 years go by, and I kept thinking, "Man, I really should do this," and I just kept putting it off, and I was like, and she's getting older, I don't know if I should do this. Well, April of 2022, I find out that she's 15 at this point. She had cancer.
Mm.
And so it was going to be terminal because at her age, the surgery just would have been too hard on her body. And I said, "Well, he wants to go under the blankets. Go ahead." Um, so I told myself, well, I'm gonna, yeah, this is his favorite thing.
Oh, cute.
I told myself that the last few months or year, whatever I had left with her, was going to be the best of her life. I was going to make it her comfortable and do all the things on our bucket list. And so the first thing I did was I got her buttons. And at 15, she learned about, I think she had 12 buttons, give or take. And it was amazing. It was like life shatter. Like I couldn't believe what a difference it made. Just her, I used all words that she already knew. And so she, it was just her way of being able to ask for the things that she always knew and wanted. And now she could ask for them on command. And it was just the best. And so she passed in October, and then I got Jude in November. So I knew when I got Jude, he's gonna learn buttons. Like this experience was the best. And so yeah, when I got Jude, I started narrating he was 3 months old when I got him, and I thought he was a little too young, maybe because he was still like chewing on a lot of things. I was afraid he'd try to eat the buttons. So for the first month, I just narrated everything I did and repetition. Like, you want to go for a car ride? We're going for a car ride. Let's go for a car ride. Now we're in the car ride now, or soon we're going for a car ride. Now we're in the car ride. Car ride all done now. And it was just like, I sounded so ridiculous, but I just narrated everything in preparation. And then, yeah, in December, a month later, I started teaching him. So he was like, yeah, 4 months old, 5 months old, 5 months old at that time, 4 months old. Got him in 3 months. Yeah. So,
That that is incredible. I had zero idea about this backstory and I
yeah.
almost lost it there. It's so sweet. So I have questions for you. Um, I mean, I think first of all, just the most beautiful use case for starting buttons. I'm like choking up a little bit
Yeah.
here.
I know. I
Like,
had to like
yeah,
hold
like
it
a
in.
bucket
I
list. Like you can offer her all of these things in this final year of her life, and now you're giving her this extra dimension where she can really specifically advocate for herself in those moments. You
Yeah.
said she had about 12 buttons.
She had about 12, I think, because I remember I got the like 3 pack that they were selling on Amazon from Fluent Pet.
Yeah.
And I think it was 3 tiles and 3 buttons. And she learned those like so quickly. So
Oh,
then I went on the Fluent Pet website and I think I got a 6 pack if they had 6 packs.
yeah.
So I guess that would have been 9, or they had an 8 pack. It was 9 to 12
Yeah.
buttons she had, somewhere around there.
Do you remember what some of those words, concepts were? Would you mind telling
Yes.
us?
Yeah. So I remember she had food and water. She had pee and poop and outside. She had choo choo, which is Jude's button too for chew stick. Um, and the word I used for her for snuggles and pets was lovin's. So she had a
Hmm.
lovin's button. Um, and then I think I might have had like for Jude I say mom, but for Bella I used to say mama. So I think I had a mama and a Bella button. I
Yeah.
don't remember. I think there were a few more. I just can't remember what they were for the life of me. I wish I would have documented it, but
I love that. I just think that's so beautiful. Um, so then when you brought Jude home and you were talking about how you were just like narrating everything, was that something that just sort of felt like, obviously, this is what we do if we want him to understand these concepts and words, we just talk out loud? Or was that something that you'd been like hearing about, or you'd been sort of, did you like
I
seek out how to do this, or did that just sort of feel natural to you?
I think because I've been watching these button videos for like 2 years at this point, with Bella, and I started picking up that I don't remember if explicitly people were saying you should narrate, or if it was just I noticed people were doing that and I did it. But
Mhm.
I think I remember people saying you should talk. I feel like I remember you guys saying this, you should say the words. And so
Yeah.
so I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I started sort of speaking what, now I know we all call button speak, where it's, initially you're just saying like the specific words. I was very careful too in my words, like, and to this day still, like when Jude is on a chair and I want him to get off, I don't say down, I say off, because
Hmm.
down is like lay down.
Hmm.
And so I was very like particular about which words meant what. And, if I was saying, I considered calling the couch the sofa because I was afraid it would rhyme with ouch.
Hmm.
But I figured, I use couch more commonly, so I just would like pronunciate like couch, like let's sit on the couch. Like, so yeah.
I love that. I love how much intentionality you put into that. I think I mean, that's something that I notice sometimes not initially, but like after a period of time. That's something that I think is really beautiful. That at first people are like, okay, cool, talking dogs, whatever. Let's give them some buttons, give them some words. Who knows, And maybe they
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing and they're sort of like experimenting a little bit. And then after a period of time, maybe they're like, wait. a non-human says something in our language and we're like, what? And now we start listening in a different way. We're so, okay, well, what
Mhm.
would they want to talk about? And the sort of the dynamic becomes a little bit different because we become bought in a new way. We start listening in a new way. We start paying attention to what they're sniffing, what they're looking at, what their triggers
So
are.
true.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the beauties of this process is how like reciprocal it is and how much it changes us in the process, you know. And I think some people
Oh
enter
yeah.
into it with this like, cool, I'm going to be able to like I'll give them food when they want, or I'll take them to the beach instead of
Yeah.
the park. And then you're like,
Right.
oh my God, there are all these other things that they could want to
Yeah.
communicate. And how do we get to that place? Like, how do we figure out what they might want to communicate so that we can give them the ability to communicate that? And that's where you
Hmm.
really have to start paying attention in a way where perhaps you hadn't been before. And I think that's where something really clicks and becomes unique to these relationships.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's funny because I remember watching like your videos and being blown away with Bunny. And I remember thinking, I can't hold Jude to that standard from when we start because like I'm just going to be happy if he can tell me when he wants, a treat or his food or if he wants more water. And, if he keeps going and wants to like learn more, that would be amazing. But I remember telling myself, like, don't think that, he's just gonna start off telling me like that he has something stuck in his paw or, you know. Because I was really nervous that I would feel like, maybe
Mm.
disappointed if he didn't pick up quickly or if he maybe didn't learn as much. But yeah, so I just let it happen naturally and it was amazing,
I
shocking.
love I love that. And I think that's also really important is that, I mean, it's interesting that we have like that we set standards for this sort of
Yeah,
communication at all, right? Because like
yeah,
what a dog is communicating using, English words in I mean, it's a very high response effort behavior to like go to a board filled with buttons, find the correct button to communicate that. So having
yeah,
a sort of expectation at all around that is it's interesting to me, but I think that's sort of how humans function. So you not
yeah,
having that is really beautiful, and just letting things sort of unfold naturally, I think is the only way to
yeah,
be successful with this, right? Because we have to,
right.
it's a process that sort of scaffolds, they make a move, we make a move, they make a move, we sort of grow together in this process. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and ultimately, we're doing this to enrich their lives and to grow a better bond with them. So if they only see it as a need for, like, okay, this is how I'm going to ask for the treats that I want, this is how I'm going to ask for when I want to see a certain friend or go outside, like, that's good enough because that's something that they couldn't have done without the buttons. So,
totally.
even if it just stays there, that's like amazing.
I agree. Completely agree. Uh, on that note, what were some of your and Jude's first breakthroughs with the buttons? What did that look like for the two of you?
So, there's two that stand out in my mind. The first one was he only had two buttons at this point. And the first button was ball, the second button was fetch. Ball was for his treat ball specifically.
Okay.
And so we were playing, and he would press them, and I thought, well, maybe he knows what this means, I think. But it was just like there's no really confirmation there. But we were playing fetch and he went to fetch and he was playing with a plushy ball. So it was not the treat ball. And he's playing with the plushy ball. And so I throw it, he gets it, he comes back and he runs over the board and he stops and he presses fetch. And I'm like, yes, we're playing fetch. And I was also sort of shocked because he could have pressed ball because that was a ball, but it wasn't the ball that we had designated at the time for the ball. Now the ball button means everything, but at the time it was just this one ball. And so I was just like, oh my God, like that, yeah, yeah, we're playing fetch. Um, but I think the big one was his first sentence because he was sort of just a single button presser. He wasn't combining words. And there was this time, it was late at night. He had already had a choo-choo for the day. or for the evening, I should say, because he would get about two a day. And he goes up to his board and he presses choo choo. And I go, Jude, you've already had your choo choo. He said, no, choo choo's all done. And I go, you know what? It was late. And I go, you know what? How about let's turn the light off. And I turn the light off. And you see him kind of like, what? He goes back to his board and he walks across it in his classic way of walk. It's his signature way of pressing buttons. But he walks across and he goes, Jude, want choo choo. And I about died. And at the time, I was using this really cheap camera that only recorded for like 30-second intervals. So I
Oh,
was pretty certain that it didn't capture the moment. And I was, it did. And I did, and I'm on the camera, I'm in the background going, oh my God, and this stupid camera didn't capture the moment. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, nobody is going to believe me that my
yeah.
dog just made a sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
of course
incredible.
he got an extra choo choo that night.
Oh, good. Thank God I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I would have been meeting over. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, were you sort of, I mean, was that one of the moments that inspired you to like add a bunch more buttons and to see where he could expand and what sort of combinations he would want to make? Because I remember like in my journey, moments
Yeah.
like that, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Like next
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
what are we adding next? What could she want to be, So there are these sort of like leaps that I feel like individual learners make that sort of inspire us. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about that scaffolding. Like when something like that happens, you're like, oh, it's game
Yeah.
on. Now what? Where can we
Yeah.
go from here? How do I
Yes.
support them in growth? So what was that
Yeah.
like for you? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just it was shocking. Like I feel like it was a moment where I was like, oh my God, he like maybe he will get to be as good as Bunny or as good as some of the people that we follow, like it was and it was sort of it was like a proud moment. Like I had been pressing Jude want this, Jude want that, and saying it, and I just thought, he's just not interested in making sentences. He's just gonna keep to his buttons and that's fine, and it like so it was one of those moments I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe we can add more buttons and he can actually tell me more things like how he's feeling or which now all the time he's like I never knew what an emotional dog he was until he started getting emotion words and using them. So
That's incredible. I want to talk more about that. But first, okay, back up. I have so many questions. Approximately how many buttons does Jude have right now?
he has 88 connect buttons and one speak up button. We've run out. So he has 89
One,
words total.
one speak up button. That's funny.
Yeah. We ran out
Um,
of connect and we were on vacation and he needed, it was snowing. And so I gave him a snowy button. It doesn't snow
aw,
in LA, but yeah.
true. Has he used it
Yeah.
since you've been since you've been out of the snow, has he used it? The button?
No,
No.
no, he only used it
Interesting.
while we were there. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, Amazing. Okay, so emotion words. At what point were you like, we can do this? This is what he needs now. What did that process look like? And what were some of those first words that you added?
Trying to remember well, I he had want, which is something that he needed to be able, I think, to start expressing. I feel like you start with want, right? Because it's not necessarily an emotion, but it's like like I instead of just pressing choo choo, they could be telling you like I just had a choo choo. But saying
Right.
want allows you to form, oh, he actually wants a choo choo. So at some point I added feel because I thought, okay, it's similar to want in that like he had a couple buttons before I had feel. It was sad, it was happy, it was, some of the basics. But when I added feel, I think it really kind of blew it up. I didn't know if I would be able to properly teach him what the meaning of that word meant. But I realized that because I narrate, I would say things all the time. Like I would say like I'm feeling this. And so that's actually how I think his first emotion word might have been, I think I gave him sad and happy at the same time. I can't remember. But I remember because my dad passed away. and I
Mm.
was crying a lot. And I thought, I think I need to explain to him like what this is, because he was acting very concerned, coming up to my face and kind of smelling. And um, so I got a sad button. I said, and I would say, this was before I had the feel button. I would say, Mom, feel sad, and I would press the sad button. And so I realized that showing him emotions, the best way for me to teach them wasn't when I thought maybe he felt a certain way. It was when I felt a way, because, they can sense our emotions. So then if he understands, oh, this is when Mom feels sad, then he can maybe associate it with himself when he's feeling sad. And
Mhm.
it worked. It worked. He didn't use sad for himself for a while, but I do remember a couple instances when I was grieving my dad that I'd be crying and he went up and pressed sad.
Oh,
So, yeah, yeah. And I'd say, yes, I'm sad. You're right. So,
that's so
yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
That's so powerful. I feel like I've thought about this a lot recently because I recently posted a video where I'm having an absolute meltdown
I
um,
remember.
to social media. And I mean, it was awful. It was one of those like,
Yeah,
I'm grieving, I'm like sobbing. And the way Bunny responded was it was so empathetic. It was very
yeah.
clear that
It was so touching.
my dysregulation was creating some in her, but that she felt it, and it seems like she wanted to support in whatever way she could. And I feel like
Yeah,
um as a sensitive human, a lot of times what I look for in relationships is somebody that can sort of co-regulate for me. And watching animals do this for their humans now that they have
yeah,
buttons, I can see it very clearly as such an interesting dynamic. And it speaks, I mean, we all know that dogs and humans have these very special relationships, 40,000 years of coevolution. Um,
yeah,
but it just sort of puts it into perspective for me how powerful that relationship really is and what these dynamics offer us um, outside of just like, a furry companion that we can like go on walks with a couple times a day and snuggle on the couch with. It's much, much deeper than that. And there really
yeah.
is this desire for this sort of connection and communication, a bond. What is that? Beyond and above and beyond. Okay, that's the phrase. Above and beyond what
There
we
you
sort of
go.
have experienced, right? It feels like a continued sort of coevolution of
Yeah.
the relationship that is meant to be.
Well, they're part of our family, and if you see a family member crying, you're going to want to console them. So I think it's not silly to see that our dogs or cats or whatever, are also concerned when we're not acting our usual selves.
Yeah, it
So
makes all the sense in the world. And yet, I think some
yeah,
people are still sort of surprised to see
yeah,
that, which is really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
What would you say have been some of your biggest challenges with the buttons or with
Mm.
with Jude that the buttons have ameliorated? Either way, that question could go
Yeah.
in a lot of different directions. However, whatever you want to take it is fine.
I think there hasn't been like a specific big, moment or challenge. But the one thing I've come to realize is that if I'm not keeping up with my modeling, meaning like I'm pressing buttons when I'm talking to him, um, it's not that he forgets the words, that he just his communication style regresses a bit.
Mm,
So where he might say Jude want choo choo, if I haven't been modeling for a while, he might just press choo choo, or he might just press
mm,
want. So sometimes it's okay if he regresses a little bit, like for a couple weeks or a couple months, because maybe I just haven't been modeling as much. Usually I can still figure out what he wants, but sometimes if he's just pressing want and I'm like, want what? And he just looks at me. And so then I have to go through the list until I see a physical reaction from him. And so that's when I start to realize,
mm.
ooh, I have to be modeling more, because I think what it is, I don't think it's that like he's regressing necessarily. Maybe that's the wrong term, but I think what it might be is that he sees that I'm sort of being lazy with it. So he's like, well, if you're going to be lazy with it, I'm going to be lazy with it too. Like, You know,
Yeah.
I think that might be what it is. Like, oh, well, she's not pressing the button, so I'll just press one or two and she'll figure it out, you know.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier for me if I model because then he is like, oh yeah, I guess I should make some sentences, make it a little easier for her.
Yeah.
So
That's really interesting. I mean, that's you're modeling behavior either way, right? Either the behavior you're modeling
yeah,
is like we use words in larger sequences, larger and longer sequence, or you're modeling the behavior that I will get the point if you just press choo choo. So either
yeah,
way, you
yeah,
are demonstrating a behavior that could be practiced by him.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Um, how would you say that this technology, this process has changed your connection? I mean, you could speak to
Mm,
that with Bella, and then it might be a different question because I know you started sort of as soon as you got Jude with the buttons. And so for me,
yeah,
people will ask me that question of Bunny, and I'm
yeah,
like, I don't have any basis of comparison. We did this from the time she came home. So I'd be
right,
interested to hear your thoughts regarding, that with Bella and with
yeah,
Jude.
yeah. Well, with Bella, ugh, it was beautiful with Bella. I saw this sort of light come back into her eyes, you know. It was one of those things where she seemed before we got the buttons to be completely happy and completely content, other than like this cough that she had. She had lung cancer, so it was
Oh,
a cough, and otherwise she seemed pretty healthy when she was first diagnosed. And um but when we got the buttons, it was like this new challenge, I guess, for her. And it was as soon as she realized, I think, what they could do for her, it was like, ooh, I'm gonna press the buttons all the time. And it was just this like really great dynamic we had. Oh, the one thing that was really beautiful. So Bella would she was starting to have seizures, and I in the beginning, I think I realized later that they had been seizures, but either she wasn't having like a typical standard, I don't know if they call it grand mal for dogs, but like where they shake. Um, I don't know if she just wasn't having a typical seizure like that, or if I was missing it, if it was like
mm.
maybe when I was in the shower and I would come out, but there would be moments where she would be in this sort of foggy cloud, and is what I would call it. She would, be sitting and looking like she was confused, and I would call her name, and she either wouldn't react at all, or she would kind of like look to the corner of the ceiling or something. Um, by the way, I just noticed there's a spider on my ceiling. I hope it doesn't come down while we're talking.
Oh.
Stay there. Um, so so she would be in these like foggy sort of mindsets, and I would say her name and she wouldn't react. And if I would press a button, she would react to the button and she would get up and come over. And so
Oh.
yeah. So it was for that, it was just I don't know. I think it's we already had this beautiful, strong bond. You know, she had been my dog for 15 years. Almost 16. She was almost 16 when she passed. And so she but I think it just made her understand maybe. I mean, this is, what I feel, but I think she understood that I was trying to like give her everything I could in
Oh,
the end. Yeah.
it's so
So
beautiful.
yeah, it was one of the most beautiful things. Trying not to get
Yeah.
teary-eyed.
Yeah.
And with Jude, the one thing I will say, yes, I started with him as a puppy. So, like you said, I don't have a huge basis of what he was before, but we did wait about a month to start. And I, the one thing, and I don't know if this is just because he was growing from being a puppy to an adult, and maybe his personality was like blossoming anyway, or if the buttons may have played a role in this. But when I got him, Jude was very sort of aloof. Like he didn't. I wouldn't say that he was like a people dog. Like
Hmm.
he was more of a dog's dog. He liked to play with the other dogs. He wasn't super interested in people. And I remember initially feeling nervous because I had such a strong bond with Bella and thinking like, "Ooh, what if he doesn't really want to bond with me? What if he's just more into other dogs?" And I I noticed I noticed like a few months into learning the buttons with him that he was not the same dog that he was when I brought, like he was extremely social, not just with me, but with strangers and like curious and wanting to like snuggle with me. And, so I don't know if the buttons played a part in that, but I suspect they might have helped, I think.
Yeah, that is so cool. Um, yeah, I think about this a lot, actually, like, and we were talking about this a little bit before, but how high of a response effort using these buttons can be for our learners. And I think
Hmm.
initially, um, maybe that response effort is worth it because they want to connect, right? There is this sort of intrinsic desire to be heard and seen. And at
Yeah.
first, for some humans, maybe this is the way. Like I am listening. If you are speaking English, I am listening, which on
Yeah.
its surface is incredibly anthropocentric, right? Human
Yeah.
exceptionalism at its best. But again, then it shifts the way we listen. And then, for some learners and some humans, the response effort remains. The learners continue to use the buttons, but we are also acknowledging all signs of communication because we're now seeing them, right? We're now, in
Right.
order to add words to the board that are salient to the individual, we have to be paying such close attention that we know a lot. We can interpret a lot better what they're saying when we're not around the buttons too. So it's a
Yeah.
really like reciprocal process. And it would make
So
sense to
true.
me that Jude would sort of be turned on by that. I should not have said
Yeah.
turned on. That's a weird. Let's cut
I knew what you
that.
meant.
Okay. It makes sense to me that Jude would find that reinforcing and sort of what's the word I'm looking for? What am I trying to say here? It makes sense that spending time communicating in this way could create uh, I have no idea what I'm trying to say right here. That's
I think I
fine.
know what you're trying to say though. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. That,
that it would maybe create this new like zest for interaction with him.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I know what you
yeah.
mean. Yeah.
Okay,
But
yeah.
the one thing too I'll say is that I notice, and I don't know if this is like a personality trait of his, just intrinsically part of him, or if the buttons have played a role in this as well. But Bella, her whole life was very nervous. I always felt
Mhm.
that she trusted me, but she also, I think, was always unsure, like if looking back, I think her nervousness was like she was unsure if she was reading the room properly. Like, am I gonna protect
Mm,
her in this moment where she's feeling unsafe, or am I not understanding that she's feeling unsafe? And so
mm,
she often had her tail between her legs.
mm,
When we were in public, she would pull on the leash because she was so excited, and just a lot of small little things that
mm,
were very difficult with her because she was always nervous. And Jude is super chill, and he to the point where sometimes I mean he does get nervous often, but generally his personality, he's pretty chill to the point where like I'm trying to think of an example. Like if we're in the car and I he's sitting in a seat and I have the door open, but I want him to stay in the car. I can just say, "Hey, wait a minute. Let me get my stuff in the back." And I'll keep the door open and he just waits in the car. And I think it's partially because he's understanding my words. So he knows that wait means it's going to be brief and I'm going to be back to like grab your leash and we'll walk out together. So I think he's understanding more. And maybe that gives him more confidence to not like just be like, I gotta get out of this car now because she's gonna leave me, you know? And
Yeah.
Bella would have just jumped out of the car with that, like, if I said wait, she'd be like, no,
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I don't know if it's like a personality trait of his or if the buttons have played a role. I suspect it's maybe a bit of both, that he's generally just a calmer dog, but also that like understanding my words helps him feel more confident in like day-to-day situations and in situations where he's, new situations. So
Yeah. Now that you have a significant number of buttons, do you continue to sort of narrate everything in your environment as much as possible?
generally, yeah. Yeah. Maybe a little less than I did early on.
Hmm.
And I probably do it more with new words that I'm trying to introduce because Jude knows way more words than we have buttons.
Sure.
I'm in a small apartment, so I have to be limited on what I'm putting on the board. And there are a lot of words that like I don't currently think, I mean, maybe he would figure out a way to use them other than, but I just don't think that they would make a huge difference for him having them on the board. They're usually, some of them are words that I just use to like explain something or, so I've chosen not to give him those buttons. But yeah, he knows so much. So, um, I feel like I can I would say in the last year or year and a half, I've been doing less of the button speak narrating and more of the like human speak narrating, where I can,
Yeah.
talk to him like a human, which is also kind of silly sometimes. It feels a little silly to be like, but he gets it. Like
Yeah.
he understands what I'm saying, even if I'm not saying like, Jude, do you want to go outside for a walk together? If I'm just saying like, hey, do you want to go outside for a walk? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
Totally.
like, yeah, other people who don't use buttons, they talk to their dogs like this and the dogs get it. So now though I can say more things that he understands, so I also have to be careful and spell, with other dogs, you spell like TREAT and
Mhm.
things like that. But with him, I have to spell like I don't know. I don't even know. Like GRANDMA, like, grant, like we're going,
Aw.
yeah, like things like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's adorable. That's really funny.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's great. Are there concepts that you're actively working towards adding on the board now, or are you really comfortable with where you're at and the context that can be built with the words that are already on the board, you know?
I guess a little bit of both. I'm pretty comfortable right now with the size of the board and how he uses the buttons. I've always been someone who wants to make sure that before I'm introducing more words to the board that there aren't words on there that he like never uses. So if there's a word that he never uses, I'd rather kind of focus on sort of reteaching that word or just introduce like talking about it more and interacting with it because I'm like I don't want to take away a button because I don't know if he would want to use it, but I also am limited on space. So like before I add a new word, let's like make sure, are there any buttons that you haven't been using? And then um yeah, like recently we added I have to spell this because I'm sitting right next to it. Alexa buttons
Oh,
to
yeah.
have her play him music. And it's like his favorite thing in the world. And so then with that I added a stop button, Alexa stop. And so he can turn his music on or off. And the stop button he actually uses more often when I'm watching TV and he wants me to turn the TV off, I've noticed, which is pretty funny. And then if I don't turn the TV off, he'll turn his music on. And I'm like, okay.
That
So,
is so cool. Talk
yeah,
about like choice,
yeah,
agency, and control. He's like, actually, mom,
right?
this is not the sound that we need right now.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And
Yeah,
then,
so I've
so
added, oh, sorry.
no, 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 go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so I like right before the holidays, I added just a button that said, Alexa, hi, it's Jude. And I was like, I wonder if he like just likes interacting, like he would sort of when he would play his music, occasionally it plays the wrong playlist. And sometimes we like the playlist, and sometimes it's like, what is this? So sometimes it's a happy accident, and sometimes I'm like, oh, so then I'll have this interaction with Alexa saying, like, what are you doing? Like, this is not the right one. Like, what are you playing right now? And he would watch intently, like, oh, like, who's she talking to? So I thought, why don't I give him this button and just like see what it does? So this was like a button where like I didn't give it much thought. I'm like, let's just do it. He presses it all the time. And so sometimes it's funny, sometimes I've asked Alexa to remember. I'm saying the name funny so that it doesn't
Totally.
activate, which so far has been working. I've asked Alexa to put in her memory banks, apparently is how you say it, like that Jude is my dog and that Jude uses buttons to communicate. And so when he says it, most of the time, she will respond, oh, hey, little buddy, how's it going? How's my favorite button pressing
God.
dog? And like, it's so funny. And he just like looks and listens. And sometimes she'll ask him a question back, like, how are you doing today? And I'm just like, Alexa, it's a dog. Like, he's not going to respond to you. But other times she'll completely forget who he is, and she'll say, "Oh, Jude, I don't recognize your voice. Like, would you like to set up an account?" And I'm like, I can't set up an account. He's a dog. So, yeah.
That is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So can he select between playlists, or when he like calls out for Alexa, is it just supposed to be a
So,
specific playlist and sometimes she gets it wrong?
so this is where I may be adding some new buttons because he currently has his one playlist. It's Jude's music, and it's a just like a combination of different songs that I've been playing for him since he was a puppy, and then added more and added more and added more until it just became this really big playlist. And then actually we had a video of him pressing this button go viral, and people were asking for the playlist. So I ended up adding additional songs to make it a longer playlist because at the time I think it was only like, I mean, this was still a long playlist. I think it was like 2 hours. And people were saying, oh, I'd love to play this for when I'm out. So I was like, well, let
Yeah.
me add more songs and make it like 4 hours. So I think it's about 4 hours now. But so it's this one playlist. And I play it for him when I leave the house. And but when we took a road trip recently to Ohio, it was like several day road trip, kind of fun. And I was playing different music for him in the car, and was very it was very clear when he liked a certain genre and when he didn't like a certain genre. And so he seems to really like jazz, and he likes acoustic music, and he likes Disney music. And so, and some rock and roll, but if I played rock and roll a little too long, not into it. Same with country. If I tried country, some country, okay, and then if I was playing it too long, like nope, okay, change the station. He would just start.
Interesting.
So since we've been back, I've been noticing he'll press his button for his music, he'll listen to it for a few minutes, and then he's gone over a couple times and pressed frustrated sound.
Oh,
And so I suspect he wants options. And
yeah.
so I'm considering adding some more buttons. I have to order some more Connect buttons though, because those are the only ones that Alexa tends to like listen to. So
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. That is so cool. That is so cool. Curious because anecdotally, I've heard that dogs love reggae. Have you
mhm.
experimented with that at all?
I've tried it and I feel like he's a little indifferent to it. Like he's like,
Huh.
okay, yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
but it's
whatever.
not. Yeah, but there are the same with classical. I thought he would love classical. He's
Yeah.
okay with it. He'll listen to it for a little bit, but then he'll go and press Alexa stop, like if I play it. So I think like the ones that he lets keep going are usually mixes of like acoustic versions of covers and acoustic versions of like Disney songs. Like he likes the like soft tone. Anything with a big bass or a big beat, like
Yeah.
It can be one song, he might put up with it, and then it has to go to the next song that's a little more calm. So, but he loves
Ah,
jazz. He loves
no,
jazz.
that is so discerning and fancy. I'm a
Yeah.
little intimidated by him, if I'm being honest.
I know.
That's
I think he has better
amazing.
taste in music than I do.
Oh,
Like,
for sure he does than me. Yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
cool. I'll be really interested to see how that evolves.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some other members of the community experiment with like music, but I'd be really curious to see sort of how deep that goes and what that
Yeah.
exploration looks like to a pup with discerning musical interests. So yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
paying close attention. Um, have you had much experience with like people in your house witnessing him communicating, or what have sort of reactions been from people online, maybe, or
Yeah.
neighbors, friends, family?
Yeah.
What's that been like for you?
Well, so I live alone. So usually the people see it firsthand when they're visiting or when I'm visiting. So my mom has seen a lot of it. She comes to visit often, and it's become like completely normal to her. But in the beginning, I remember her just being like, "Oh my God, he just pressed this," or he just, like, "Rochelle, did you hear what he just said?" Um, and when I travel home, I'm often staying at my aunt's house, and she has, up until recently, been a lot more skeptical about it. I stayed with her for about a month, like what was it? Not this past summer, but the summer before, and had his full board there, and she was like, no, like it might just be a coincidence, and she was seeing him press these amazing things. I don't know. Like one of the presses, she has a dog, and he told me that this dog wanted water, and it was in, well, she wasn't there, my cousin was there, but we showed her the video after, and she was like, it could have been a coincidence. But this time we visited, um, and I think she was starting to come around. She was like, huh, yeah, it does seem like he's using these in context, like that's it. So
Oh,
I think
that's
she's
really cool.
finally, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have like a bunch of friends. We go to this members dog park, which is great because all the dogs are pre-screened for, for personality and, how they're interacting with other dogs. And they also have all of their shots and everything. And so I've sort of, over the years now, we have this like group of friends at the dog park that we see all the time, and they are very much in the know of Jude and his buttons, and they just think it's so great. They're constantly asking me, so what are like some of the newest things Jude has asked? What has he been pressing lately? And I think like a lot of them truly understand that he's like actually communicating, and I think some of them are like, this is a little weird, but I'm open to listening to it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
yeah.
so interesting. I mean, I feel like many of us in the community, and I would sort of hope that many of us approach this with some hopeful skepticism, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
agreed.
some of the things we're experiencing, seeing, feel
Mhm.
a little bit outlandish based on our current understanding of, canine cognition, right? So there's a lot to
Yeah.
explore. But I also feel like the people who are the most skeptical, once they are exposed to some of this, it's really hard for them to remain firmly rooted in that skepticism, because there is just so much communication within context, as you said, that, I mean,
Yeah.
you sort of can't deny it. If a dog presses treat and then looks at the cupboard where the treats are, I mean, maybe that in and of itself
Yeah.
isn't enough to convince somebody, but like multiple instances of
Oh
communications like
yeah.
that occurring, it's really hard to say there's nothing going on here. So,
Yeah,
um,
I totally
yeah.
agree. And I mean, I think it's good for us to still be skeptical when they're using their buttons on a daily basis, because sometimes they are just spamming the board. It's like a kid having a tantrum, like they want your attention. Maybe you're working and you just can't, like, okay, wait a minute, and so then they go over and just press all the buttons, and it's just it happened. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not there sitting like, oh, what did you just press? Oh, this. Oh, you're trying to say this. Like, no, I know, I understand that he's spamming his
Yeah.
buttons right now.
It's a
Yeah.
bid for attention, a
Yes. Yeah.
non-specific bid for attention. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about that is that what happens when there's a non-specific bid for attention? Typically, you get the attention because
Yeah.
maybe it's annoying or maybe there is some sense that needs to be made out of it, but there's that relational connection that's
Yeah.
happening regardless, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so cool. This is so it's so fun to hear all of these stories. I love it.
Yeah.
So just a couple more questions for you. One, what would be sort of your top tip to people who are interested in starting this process with their own companion animal? What do they do? Where do they start? How?
I think where I started narrating, even before the buttons arrive, just start talking to them and using clear words for different things, like if I name a lot of his treats so that even if there's not a button for them, if he presses treat, I can say, okay, which treat do you want? Do you want the beef liver fennel treat? Do you want
Ooh.
and it's just, do you want, I call some of them the grandma treat if it's a treat that my mom got for him and, and she presented it to him, then he'll remember, oh, that's the treat grandma got me. I think it's just narrating. And I think also just not feeling overwhelmed. Like there's no need to feel overwhelmed because you can start small. There's no right or wrong way to like in terms of how many buttons. I feel like people are always asking how many buttons, and everybody I know in the community has done it differently. I
Mhm.
started off with one at a time, but I know like Sasha said she did all six from the package at the same
Mhm.
time, Sasha from Puppy Parker Posey. And I know like everybody has different, suggestions. And I just think like do what you think feels right for your dog or your cat or your guinea pig or
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important to remember that none of us are experts here. Like we can establish guidelines that seem to work
Mhm.
for a variety of learners, but when it comes down to it,
Right.
this is about an individual finding ways to connect,
Yeah.
however they can. And that's a really
Yeah.
personal process and it's really specific to the diet. So I love that.
So true.
I love that advice.
I
Yeah. Do
think
what feels good.
also, yeah, and I think also remembering that the buttons are more of like, is my video suddenly weird?
It just got dark for a second, but that's fine.
Yeah, okay. Um, I think also remembering that the buttons are more of like an assistance or like an addition to other communication styles because I think like early on with Bella, when I look back at some of the videos, I do have a few videos of me first teaching her, and I kind of want to slap myself on the wrist because, I was trying to replace, for example, she had a bell hanging on the door that she used to go outside. I didn't really need to replace that bell. And so for a few days, though, when I was trying to teach her the outside button and have her, I put the button by the door and took the bell away. And looking back, I wish I hadn't. I wish I would have put the
Mm.
button in addition to the bell so that if she rang the bell, I could go and press the button. And maybe she wouldn't have used the outside button because she already had a bell, and that's fine too. Like, I think it's just remembering that you have to pay attention to their body language and also the other ways that they've already been communicating with you.
I love that. That's perfect. Yeah, that's chef's kiss. Yeah. All the ways are valid. This is an
Yeah.
accessory. It's an additional method of communication. It doesn't replace
Exactly.
anything. The
Yeah.
more modalities we have with which to create connection, the
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
I think the buttons allow them to get more specific and more detailed in talking about their emotions, talk like the things that they can't do with body language that they can't do with like the tools that we've maybe used in the past, like bells or whatever.
Absolutely. I love that. Final question for you today. What is your most controversial opinion about behavior or buttons?
Um This might get me in trouble, actually. I know a lot of people feel very strongly that you should not move the buttons around. And if you do, it should be rarely, or, the board. I have changed the board so many times. I'm actually planning a new layout. I'm keeping the tiles in the same location this time, but I'm planning an entirely new button layout. Um, I've done it so many times, and Jude sometimes gets frustrated for a day or two, and I always take a photo of what we had before in case he hates it so much I can go back so that I don't forget how it was laid out prior. But usually within minutes, he's finding his buttons, and maybe he'll press frustrated for a few days, and then he's suddenly using it in a better way. So every
Yeah.
time I change it, it's because I've been watching how he uses it, watching how I use it, and trying to find a better way that allows me to model better and allows him to use it in, like, his signature style is walking across the board. He's not one of those dogs that, like, I see Cash do this where Cash will press a button and then he'll go to the other side of the board and he'll press another button. Jude doesn't do that. He will shorten the sentence so that he doesn't have to go out of his way to press the buttons across the board. So he likes to walk across and press them, find them as he goes.
Mhm.
So I'm always trying to rearrange when I'm noticing, oh, this button is kind of, in the wrong spot, or, oh, I think, he has more buttons now. We need to make it longer instead of, thicker. And so I'm changing it all the time. And I think, at least for Jude, it has been fine. So
Yeah.
I don't think there should be any hard rule on that. I think if you know your button presser, you can move the board if you think it is necessary and it will help them. That's my opinion.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that speaks to you understanding how your learner can most efficiently use this tool and sort of working
Yeah.
within those parameters to increase the efficacy of your communication. Wow, that was so many stupid big words. Why do I
No.
talk like this?
No, that was
That's
not. That was
okay. Yeah.
good.
I mean, I love that. I love that. And yeah, I want to really thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. This has been
Of course.
so delightful getting to know
This was
you.
so
And
fun.
yeah, and I'm thank you for sharing your story about Bella because I didn't know that, and it's
Of
so
course.
beautiful. And Jude, just like, I mean, that is honestly where I
Sleeping.
want to be right now. It's like right there under the covers. Yeah, what a beautiful story. I really appreciate you sharing it and taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out. This was
Yeah.
really, really fun.
Subscribe.